All right, the Holy Gospel of Luke, the 19th chapter.
Praise to you, Lord.
As Jesus came near and saw the city, he wept over it, saying, "If you, even you, had only recognized on this day the things that make for peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes. Indeed, the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up ramparts around you and surround you and hem you in on every side. They will crush you to the ground, you and your children within you, and they will not leave within you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation from God." This is the saving gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. You know, between the sirens, the mic not working, and Jesus' lovely description of the temple in Jerusalem coming crashing to the ground, it makes you wonder, Jesus, what are you doing today? Isn't this supposed to be your party? Isn't this supposed to be your coronation? Why is it that Jesus ends up weeping during a time of such jubilant celebration? Well, as always, the answer rests in not only the misunderstandings that we have as modern American readers of the Gospels, but also through the eyes and misunderstanding hearts of those who held those palm branches 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, crying, "Hosanna to the Son of David." So, in light of that ancient misunderstanding and maybe our old today, I need some volunteers. Children, would you be willing to come up? All the little ones. Get any participants here today? I'm being a good sergeant, getting everybody for spiritual battle right now.
Anybody else?
All of you are now spiritually enlisted. So, my friends, we hear in today's story about Jesus being called the Son of David. David was a child, he was a shepherd boy, and he fought a very important battle a long, long time ago in a galaxy not so far away. So you might remember a story about David killing a great giant a long time ago. Does anyone remember the name of that giant? Someone might know. It's okay, you don't. His name was Goliath. He was very tall. Well, Samantha has here a replica of the instrument used to slay the giant Goliath with us today. She has a sling. Now, we can't use stoves today because that would be very, very dangerous. We don't want that to happen to anybody getting hurt. But Samantha has a very special treat. She has marshmallows. So, my friends, do you want to see how far Samantha can sling one of these marshmallows?
Yes.
See how far she can swing this marshmallow? It's okay, Sam. You can aim for me. I can take the hit if necessary. I know I should have helped with the cooking this week. I am sorry.
All right, this is with no practice.
No practice at all. First time, everyone.
Sure. They're in their apartment practicing this, aren't they?
Absolute practice, and these came very recently. As far as I know, the sling goes over the middle finger. You hold it between the thumb and pointer finger, and beyond that, I have no idea how this works. I turn big aim off in that corner.
Okay, here we go. What I keep at any point.
Okay, guys. Ready, set.
I think I can do this.
Where'd it go?
I've hit the ceiling.
The mighty giant has been slain. all right, my friends. I want you to always know, it doesn't matter how little you think you are. God is so powerful and so big that whether it's a small stone or a marshmallow, God can do great things. So I don't know who has food allergies, but after today, if your parents say it's okay, we have marshmallows for you.
Zod, if you want to keep going, maybe Sam, you could give him a couple more.
Okay, well, you can distribute the marshmallows, all right? All right, well, as we're doing the marshmallow distribution, we might remember that in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark in today's songs, Jesus is hailed by the crowds in Jerusalem as the Bar David, the son of David. The expectation of the crowd is best summarized by one of my favorite book titles in fiction, The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. The people of God are in feverish expectation of the return of not only a king, but a divine king. A king who will set things to rights, and understandably so. We hear in today's scripture how palm branches are carried, how cloaks are set on the ground, how Jesus is set on a donkey. And these things are a part of our American Western church culture. But what did they mean to the ancient Israeli eyes of those at least 2,000 years ago? And to understand that, we must understand what was meant and what is meant by the word gospel or good news within their cultural context. When I use the word gospel, you might be thinking of Aretha Franklin or maybe Alicia Keys or Jean Fusé. But when I use the word gospel or good news, it had a very specific meaning to the ancient Roman and Jewish culture of the time. You see, to the ancient Romans, it meant the victory of an emperor after he had smashed an enemy army. And now the emperor would have parties, celebrations coming home. But to the Jewish imagination, gospel, good news, meant something different. In Isaiah, the 40th chapter, we read how God himself will come as a monarch back into Jerusalem to set all things right, to cast away the powers of darkness. We read in Zechariah, the 9th chapter, how this king, this anointed, this Mashiach, this descendant even of David, will ride on a donkey into Jerusalem, hailing that his monarchy will appear in might, even though a donkey is a beast of burden. And of course, we see how the cloaks on the road refer to our ancient Israel. Kings like Jehu in 1st and 2nd Kings would be given cloaks to sit on. It's not always easy sitting on the Iron Throne, as Game of Thrones fans will know very, very, very well. And yet the crowds cry, Hosanna, as we just discovered today, to the Son of David, because perhaps they believe that, like David before him, Jesus might get rid of a problem. You see, the people of Israel 2,000 years ago were oppressed by the Roman Empire. They had not only taxation, something that all of us can relate to coming up this Tuesday. They also were being oppressed by military occupation. Their people were raised, stoned, crucified, and harmed. They wanted liberation. And so it is perhaps they thought, perhaps even Judas might have thought, perhaps this Jesus will liberate us from our hated adversaries. And before we, as modern Americans, say, well, oh man, surely they didn't get the point, we ourselves will be grumbling when we read the headline news week after week that if only our adversaries perceived as such, whether they were political right or left-leaning figures, whether they were tech billionaires, we often grumble that if only they were out of the way, we ourselves would somehow know liberation and peace. The people thought that Jesus had come to cast down the Goliath of the seasons. But Jesus has come instead to drive out a different Goliath. A Goliath who affects me and you and all of us and all of our wounded hearts. That Goliath is seen within the prophecy of a holiday that many of our neighbors celebrated yesterday, and one which I was privileged to partake in. Last evening was Pesach, or Passover, in the modern Jewish calendar, and I had the privilege of celebrating it with my Jewish family in Riverdale, New York. And if you remember the story of the Pesach or Passover, the Jewish people at that time, under the oppressor of ancient Egypt and Pharaoh, led by Moses, placed the blood of the lamb on the doorposts of their homes, so that the angel of death might pass over and so that the firstborn might survive. The truth of the matter is, Jesus has come not to topple empires and cities and regimes by a bloody sword, nor through a sling and a stone, nor through powerful, influential policies that we could vote for. No. Jesus revolutionizes the world. In the words of the famous Russian Orthodox hymn, by trampling down death by death, Jesus has come to topple the Goliath of sins, of Satan, the powers of shadow. The woundedness in my heart, in all of our hearts, that clings to ego rather than love. And so it is that the crowds cry, Hosanna to the Son of David, with their palm branches, expecting a coming king, a Conan the Barbarian, if you will, a soldier of excellence like Napoleon Bonaparte, a genius like unto the masterminds of political influence like Churchill. And yet instead, Jesus' way will lead to the cross. Instead, Jesus' way invites us to the cross. Curiously enough, it is the religious leaders that seemingly do not get this reality, though they had memorized the scriptures year after year. So much so that when the people praise this Messiah, they want to silence the voice of the praising multitudes. And what is Jesus' response to the attempt to silence this light, to bury this light? He tells them that even if the crowds would be silent, even the stones would cry out. Had you ever wondered why is Jesus talking about talking rocks for crying out loud? Yeah. Samantha, bring forth the pet rocks. Brothers and sisters, you know that I am an unusual fellow. And of course you will know that it is no ordinary day that John brings more of his rock collection, and this is not a matter of AC/DC or Led Zeppelin me. The reality of the situation is that these are stones from the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. These are specific rocks because they come from a mountain where God is said, according to Zechariah and the prophets, that he will return to judge the living and the dead. By coming to the Mount of Olives, Jesus is claiming not only to be an influential leader or prophet, he is claiming to be God among us. The curious thing is that the Pharisees, the religious leaders, said to themselves, perhaps we could silence the inconvenience of God's voice. But what Jesus points out is that no power of oppression, no power of political might can ever put out the light of the gospel. We as Christians did not get it when we burnt Joan of Arc at the stake, because her voice was inconvenient to us. but our light burns on in inspiration. Martin Luther King Jr. offered the gospel through nonviolence and through love, declaring the kingship of Jesus through sacrifice. But even after his death, the light of his justice rings on. And although Rome 500 years ago tried to silence the voice of Martin Luther with excommunication and the threat of death, we are still here as examples that our King reigns not through internet trolling, not through mobs, not through an attempt to overthrow regimes, but instead by the quiet revolutions of the heart that lead us to take to the streets and declare Jesus Christ is indeed King of endless glory. May we not lose sight of that promise. And when we feel as if we should be silent, may we, like Vicar John's crazy pet rocks, be a reminder that with God, even very gifts of nature are testimonies that God's voice speaks to us. God's message is being heard to each and every one of you today. May we walk in that promise in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.